Yeah, I'm just going to continue with some more of the kind of fun, interesting questions that we have today. So, the first question I have for you is if you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would it be?
Yeah, that was a hard one, eh? Oof, there's so many people you can think of. Well, to keep up the Trinity connection, there is a former dean of women at St. Hilda's named Dr. Mossy May Kirkwood. That it really intrigues me. I find her an incredibly inspiring person, and I've tried to do some research on her, but she didn't leave a lot of actual records. I think she lived in Toronto. Her family was in Toronto. There were telephones. She probably just didn't write a lot of letters and things, right? But she's a fascinating character. She's the reason we have a lot of the art that we do have in the college, and so she's somebody I've been sort of interested in recently. So I would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with her and ask her a million questions. Um, but apart from that, I think yeah, it's tough. But I think that I would love to have afternoon tea with Henry James because I love reading Henry James and I reread him frequently. So he's another fascinating character. So that's, I guess, my answer there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for that. The next question I have is just about some questions about the future of the archives. So you did touch on that a little bit earlier when Mila was asking some of her questions, but I was just wondering, what are your future plans for the archives? Where do you kind of see it leading? How do you see it developing in the future?
Yeah, I really do hope that we move further and further along the road of being integrated into the academic program of the college. I think that really makes a lot of sense, especially now that most of the college records are digital and we do have records management programs in place and things like that. So there isn't the same sort of work involved in acquiring the actual records of the college. So that sort of frees up some of the time and space for the acquisition of more private records, and we're actively pursuing the records of former diplomats and people who are important in Canadian history. Um, so, and those are the kinds of things that I think we can actually integrate into projects, like working with Professor Sale and Professor Fitzgibbon, and Professor, not so much Duncan, but Kessler, the people in the IR program. They're all very interested in using the archives as a way to teach students. And there's lots of things that we can do. So apart from just having classes here, I think we can integrate projects in the IR stream with archival records. So I really think that that's the future. Yeah, it's quite exciting. I hope we can. We really had a certain amount of momentum building, and then of course COVID just shut everything down. So let's hope we can rebuild.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds really interesting. I've actually never had a class where I had the opportunity to engage with archival work of any sort. But yeah, if that opportunity was there, I think as a student, I'd personally really enjoy that. Just engage.
Yeah, it used to be the purview of grad students, but I think, given the quality of students that come to Trinity, I think there's no reason why students can't be doing, archival research. And, I co-wrote a paper with a Trinity undergraduate once. I mean, it's certainly possible. There's stuff here in the archives that nobody's ever worked on that's, completely open and available for somebody to do completely original research. So it's quite exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Just like the idea of so much stuff that's just unexplored and that's
Yeah.
just, there for students to engage with. But yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree with that. Kind of similar question is, what are your future career plans?
Well, my future career plans are to retire. So I think I'll probably probably at the end of next academic year, I'll be retiring. So I will be doing my own research and following my own interests, and maybe doing some volunteer work here, but heading off into the sunset.
I guess kind of building off of that, what would you like to say to someone who takes your position?
Well, I'm hoping that the next person will have some really good teaching skills. I think I know there are people. It's a thing. It's a way that the profession generally is pivoting these days. So it's being taken quite seriously, I think, in the training of archivists. And I know that there are people who are actually simultaneously doing like an MEd, right, to sort of hone their teaching skills as well as their archival skills. So I hope that the next person will take that part of it really seriously. And I also hope that they will have someone who's got an appreciation for the sort of artifact and paper-based material that we have here, because although we are moving into the digital world, the Trinity Archives is still heavily analog, right? And so you need somebody who's got almost more like a museum mindset in that sort of a way, that has a real love and appreciation for the stuff, right? As well as the skills to carry us through into the digital age. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to what I was going to ask next. Actually, you touched on a lot of important points there. So the next question was, what advice or message would you offer to a student who's interested in becoming an archivist? I mean, you can touch on like the kind of education they should go through. I think you just mentioned with the MEd, and then just generally the kind of activities they should pursue to possibly find themselves in a role like that.
Yeah, it is. It's a very interesting job. I mean, obviously, I love being the archivist here, but it is sort of a single thing. Like there's a lot expected of you in terms of a broad skill set. So that's somebody who wants a job like this, or the Trinity job, would have to have that kind of those sorts of broad interests and broad experience, right? Other things like donor relations and things like that are things that are hard to teach, but are nonetheless important. But for a student at Trinity who wanted to go into the profession, I do hire an assistant here every year, right? I have Elise working in the next room right now. She's 7 hours a week during term and then full-time over the summer. So there's always a job opportunity. And a lot of my former student assistants have gone on to become archivists. There's a lot of them, actually. So that's a really good way to, if you're interested in being an archivist, come down and talk to me. And even if you don't want to work here, come down and talk to me anyway. I do sort of an informal, mentoring with people all the time. So I'm happy to talk to people who are interested in the profession.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think for the students listening, if any of them are interested in pursuing a career in the archives, I think this would be really useful. And I hope that, yeah, students do come and speak with you. I think that's a really great opportunity to have in the college itself.
Yeah. I mean, one of the great things about Trinity is its smallness, and there are people like me who are available to you, right? And we truly are. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to be intimidated by the archives. I mean, there's all kinds of us who, our part of our mandate for being here is to, mentor and nurture you guys in your careers. So, take advantage of us.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so my next question is, what do you want Trinity students to know about the archives? So, for example, if some students aren't familiar or some who just know a little bit about the archives, what kind of message about the archives do you want to send to them?
Mainly just that it's accessible. It's like I was just saying, it's part of the deal here. It's part of what's available to them. So I really encourage everybody to come down, if it's just curiosity. You want to know a little bit about what Trinity was like in the past. You want to know something about student traditions. If your great uncle went to Trinity College, I might be able to find something. There's curiosity is a great thing, right? And there's any number of reasons why you might want to come to the archives, and they're all very good reasons. And I would encourage anybody to just come by and make use of it as much as possible. And for whatever reason, if their career, a project, just general interest, we're happy to have people come down.
Okay, and as a concluding question, I just have a very broad kind of question is, do you have any message that you would like to convey to Trinity students at large?
We pretty much covered it in the last one, I think. Just encourage people to come down and not feel intimidated by. I know people sometimes are intimidated by the idea of doing research with original documents and the whole idea of an archives, because archival research has to be mediated by a person like me, right? You can't just, you guys are all skilled library users, and that you can just walk into a library and sort of self-service. But archives is quite different. The whole way it's set up is very different. And so sometimes people just find that a little intimidating. I encourage you not to be intimidated. I'm not intimidating. And the other people who work for me part-time are not intimidating. We're all happy to have you here. So I would just encourage people to come down and check us out, say hello, see what you can find.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope, as a result of this interview, I hope more students get to hear about the archives and come and visit you. It was really nice talking to you. And we really did learn a lot about the archives that I previously didn't know, just about like the different kind of activities that happen there. And just generally how important the archives is to a university and Trinity College in general. Like it's something that I feel like students often miss when they think about something like the archives. I mean, it's often common to think about the research side of things, but just all the other fascinating aspects and the role that an archives plays is often missed. So I'm really glad that you could share that with us today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. The other thing is that we do have Instagram. We've teamed up with the Graham Library, but we're going to be doing a lot of posting on Instagram over the next little while. So people can check that out. There's Archives Month in Canada is April, and so we're going to be posting daily, sort of an A to Z, archives A to Z. So we're working on that. So, and we're going to try to do more social media. It just becomes one more thing, but I am trying to do more social media. So follow us on the Graham Library /archives Instagram. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sylvia, for your time. I think as a history nerd, I really admire your role and just like everything that goes into it. Again, like you don't really think about all of the moving parts that you have to deal with. So thank you so much for joining us and for just being a part of Trinity College and for helping preserve the continuity of our history. Yeah, just thank you for your time today. It was greatly appreciated.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. So thanks for having me.